we watched finally I Like Me, the John Candy documentary by Ryan Reynolds and Colin Hanks. I had a nice date with my wife watching this movie, and it was followed up by watching we watched Splash, Uncle Buck, and a lot of SCTV clips. And so we've been on like a John Candy kick ever since this. Man, those SCTV clips, you got to see. Like there's one of my favorites, and it's been my favorite for a long time. The food repair shop.
Hello, Royce Food Repair.
John Candy plays a food repairman as if he's a mechanic. And people are bringing in toast that fell down, and he's going to, air blast the toast or whatever.
I'm going to drop this in some liquid nitrogen and freeze it solid. And I'm going to take it out back, and I'm going to sandblast it.
I can get it back to you by about 4 o'clock. Or there's one where it's like, hey, like I've got this bag of pretzels, but all the salt has like went down to the bottom of the bag, and he's looking at it. And he's like, I hate to tell you this, I'd buy another bag of pretzels. he's like, listen, I could do it,
but it's by hand. It's 1 grain of salt at a time.
That bag would probably be about $90 for me to put the salt back on every pretzel. He's like, but maybe you take out an ad in the paper. Maybe somebody would, a young kid or an old person is retired might be interested in helping you.
You might take an ad out in the paper. You never know. An elderly couple on a low salt diet, they might have bought a bag by mistake. It happens.
What did you like the movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very I mean, they got so many good interviews.
Yeah.
So like all of the key players. And
they had access.
That Colin Hanks, Ryan Reynolds access, and so it was nice. It was nice to get get his kids, get his wife, get everybody. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it's you can't help but like John Candy, and that's kind of the whole theme. Is like he's such a such a warm human person. I think that's what draws you to his movies. Is just like you look at him, you're like, I like this guy.
Yeah,
I like this guy.
Yeah, in fact, I think there's almost like a chemical formula for why he's so likable, and I think it's something like they said it at some point in the movie that it's that he's got this intersection of strength and confidence while not being the slightest bit intimidating. It's both at the same. It's like extreme confidence and not intimidating at all and not threatening at all. And that's like almost like a recipe for high likability, because we like confident people. We like exuberant people. And, this Johnny Toronto thing I thought was really cute.
And it's just amazing, like, with the SCTV, like, roots and, like, how many people came out of that, or even Second City in that time.
It's wild.
It's just wild. It's wild. like everybody
Too wild and crazy guy!
Right alongside SNL, where you have Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase. You've got John Candy, Eugene Levy, Martin Short, Rick Moranis, Catherine O'Hara. And, she was one of the people who eulogized him at his actual funeral. And she said a beautiful thing about how, and this is back then, about like, well, not everybody has a lot of time to go to the movies. And, but when they do, like watching a John Candy movie is a sure bet. And I was like, that's how I feel about, like, I don't, who am I going to spend my night with? Well, John Candy's a sure bet, like he's so likable. And something I wanted to say about his acting, I kept hearing different subjects or archival footage where they kept talking about what a great actor he was. Like, this guy's a great actor. He's a really great on screen. And like, I'm almost hesitant to say that. I agree, by the way. But what I mean is, I feel like everything he does. Remember they were saying like when he first tried out, all he did was just sit there and listen, and that alone was kind of enjoyable. I feel like in a lot of his scenes, in some of his most famous scenes, like Home Alone or a lot of Uncle Buck or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, in the scene he's not necessarily doing a whole lot. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, you're almost like just drinking him in. Like he's just, it's like,
and it's like when he does decide to open his mouth and speak, or he does decide to move his body, it's perfect every time.
Yeah,
every fucking. It's like this dude just is where the comedy is somehow. A lot of the movie is about how he lost his father at a young age. My dad lost his father when he was 3. Same problem. And similar, where he was like, my dad grew up horrified of heart attacks, continues to be horrified of heart attacks, because his dad dropped dead of a heart attack at 51 or something. And people still drop dead of heart attacks. But back in those days, I think more men were dropping dead of heart attacks, just because there weren't as many interventions. And so it sounds like Candy He lost his dad when he was 5, and his dad was what, 43 or something. He was 45. Yeah. No, he was like 38. Yeah. He was young.
Yeah, he was young. Yeah, because he was 34. He's like, he thought he was on borrowed time because he was getting to the age of his dad. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this kind of like I should be dead by now kind of anxiety, and even though he was a global superstar and everybody loved him and all the rest of it, he was like, do you think anybody's going to hire me? Do you think anybody likes me? Like he started to seem like, I don't know how much they overemphasized it or were dishonest about it or what, but it seemed like in those last years, this anxiety overtook him. His health obviously was very poor, but I do think that like the addition of the stress, and it seemed, and I've heard this like in other media too. As a matter of fact, Hats Off said this, where he was like, Candy was just saying yes to everybody. He didn't want to say no to anybody. Somebody put it really well. It was something like, in this business, oh yeah, it's a bad business for people pleasers because they'll take whatever you've got and ask for more. It's a bottomless cup of coffee. And I related to that too, also just with YouTube, where it's like, could I possibly, for the people that want to see my videos, could I possibly put out enough videos, right? Like, I wondered the same thing about, if James Rolfe wonders the same thing.
Yeah, the whole trauma thing too, and then just like seeing his son, and he was young when his father John Candy died. It was sad to see that like kind of trauma like keep going.
Yeah, this generational curse kind of, yeah. I like that Martin Short was saying, he would drive around in limos even though he had no money. Yeah, he took on a very like, I'll pay for everybody's lunch when like he had no money. And I think, he was a big guy, but I bet you in 1980, he was a humongous guy. Like, I bet it was like, this is one of the fattest people I've ever seen in my life. And I think it's fascinating that given that he wasn't really defined, his roles and his legacy, generally speaking, are not really defined by his weight or by his looks. I don't think.
And I thought it was interesting, like Dan Aykroyd was like, he could just like pick you up like a doll and throw you around. Like he was just like strong. That. It's like powerful. And like Bill Murray's like, he would just like pinch my skin until he got to the bone and like or something. It's like it's just a very powerful man, but you don't really see the massive strength behind him. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. John Hunt's strong in that sort of way. Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is he had to be very good to overcome his appearance. Like, he had to make up for it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it, came from, like, just, listening. And in that time, listening is such an important thing in improv, which, Second City is based on improv. And to have people who are actually good listeners in improv is actually hard because people just want to like talk. They want to, steal the spotlight. They want to be, they want to make the joke. They're coming up with jokes. I'm going to be the guy who has a joke. But to actually like listen and then respond is actually a really good attribute to have. And I think he brought that to like all of his roles and all of his acting, where it felt like he was attending to everything.
Yeah, right. And Tom Hanks was saying, like, he actually shared the scene with me, and he was like, I was intimidated to go up against him comedically, but Mel Brooks, who looks to be about 300 years old.
Oh, there's going to be a documentary with him soon. It's like the 99-year-old man is what it's called.
Well, he seemed really put together and really articulate. He said something like he put the acting in his back pocket and was a human being first. He was a total actor because he was a total person. And I think, again, Hats Off said something pretty similar. Joe said something pretty similar, which was like, there was something about John Candy that was like everybody knew a guy like that, or everybody felt like, oh, he's like my neighbor, my teacher, I know that guy as my baseball coach. There's just something about him that was like, I know that guy and I want him, he's from my neighborhood and I want him to be rich. And every one of his roles, no matter how silly, exudes an everymanness in the eyes. I know there's an honesty to John Candy that I don't know, like you almost never see, and it's like one of the most important attributes in acting is that you're expressing truth, and you almost never see it.
I don't think it's like, have we seen it since? Probably not. I haven't felt it from an actor really.
Yeah, not that kind of truth, right? Yeah.
And we've had a lot of silly, like funny big guys, but it's not the same.
it seemed like he thought that there was plenty of him to go around, or he wanted plenty of himself to go around. Conan O'Brien tells a cool story about how like he had just invited him like to Harvard, and he showed up and took photos of him, and he said he was everything you wanted John Candy to be times 10.
I thought it was great. It's like, he's like, I'm thinking about going to comedy, and he's like, if you want to go into comedy, you have to really go into it, you know.
Yeah, you don't try comedy, is what he said.
Don't try it. Yeah, don't try it. Yeah.
There's this heartbreaking thing that Catherine O'Hara says towards the end of the documentary. You can tell that she loved him. She said in her eulogy that like she started out by having a crush on him, and then he married Rose.
And I had a crush on him, of course. But he was deeply in love with Rose.
But she was, as a matter of fact, in Home Alone, when he's like, well, if you don't mind hanging out with a bunch of polka bums, and it cuts to her and she goes, I'd love to, and with this like big beaming smile.
No, I'd love to.
Ever since I was a kid, I was like, that felt like an out of character moment. That felt like I just really like this guy. I just really, and I even remember being like, who's this dude? Why is this guy in the movie? Why is this guy in the movie?
He does literally show up because he was there for like 24 hours, right?
Yeah, just for a little cameo, and it feels kind of irrelevant, to like you could definitely write that movie without him. But yeah, he just improved. Yeah, and they showed a blooper that I had never seen before. Where he's like, "Do I smell of rat?" And she's like, "I don't know that I know that smell." That was really funny. But anyway, she goes, I've had more dreams about, because when people die, you have dreams about them. It's one of those haunting things. She goes, I've had more dreams about John Candy after he died than my own parents. And she goes, I was having this dream, where. Many years after he died, where we were doing a bit together, we were going back and forth, and we were developing something, and I kind of interrupted it, and I said, "Why'd you have to die?" And he said, "Why'd you have to bring it up?" And it's so awesome. It feels so.
No.
But it's I've just been playing that back in my head over and over again. But again, it's like he didn't necessarily. Was his death avoidable? I suppose is a question. His health was really poor. They said he was. He died on the set of Wagons East, supposedly reading a Bible. So that makes you wonder. I'm like, is he in the trailer just knowing he's going to die and not wanting to fuss anybody? I mean,
yeah, it's and the stories of the actors there were like, yeah, he said he's like, I'm getting an anxiety attack, but I don't want to bother anybody. We're going to keep going, and it's kind of tragic. He was almost like. He just wanted to keep things going, I've
been thinking about how, cause, I used to watch those SCTV clips when I was in college, and, college now was 20 plus years ago. It's kind of funny when you grow up at our age and you enjoy things from the early 80s, 70s, 60s, that's already 25, 30 years before your time when you do that. Now we're 40. And I'm looking back at some of this stuff. I'm watching old All in the Family clips. I'm like, this is 50 years ago. This is we're going pretty far back in time. Like, this is reaching past what the young people are going to be all that interested in. It's great that they made this while everybody can still, or while lots of people can still weigh in on it. Of course, they got Macaulay Culkin, Tom Hanks himself. Macaulay Culkin's whole testimony here is that like Candy took more of an interest in his well-being than, he could kind of spot that the dad was no good. I don't know how real any of that is, but that's what Macaulay said. Good documentary. And I would say like most of his film catalog are bangers. And
yeah,
Catherine O'Hara said that in the eulogy too. When I was saying like a lot of people, hey, spending time with John Candy's a sure bet. She was like, my mom's seen 4 movies this year, and it turned out that they're all John Candy movies. There was like Home Alone and Splash and Only the Lonely and Summer Rental. Those are the 4 she watched, or whatever.
My mother told me last week that in the last 10 or 12 years, she's seen 4 films: Uncle Buck, Summer Rental, Home Alone, and Only the Lonely.
So yeah, check out I Like Me. Very good documentary, and I would say more than that, go watch the movies.
And it's on Amazon, so if you already have Prime, you can watch.
Only 3 ad breaks for me, not too bad.
Yeah, I'm not paying for getting rid of ad breaks. No. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'll watch the Zit Cream ads if I have to.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.